Why are you filming me from a distance?
Where do you want me to film you?
Oh yeah. Just do as you're told. My hands.
Okay, right, film your hands.
Right, lots of questions.
Okay, this is your handbook. This is page number 3.
Yeah, lots of questions. What zone are we? The zone system is for North America. It doesn't actually transfer over very well at all. And I'll tell you the reasons why. The best guesstimate were around 7B8. But yeah, it doesn't transfer over due to what's called the Gulf Stream. So the Gulf Stream is warm water, a current that comes up from the Gulf of, I was going to say Mexico, but for the Trump supporters, that's called the Gulf of America now, I presume. And it goes up, comes out of there, warm water, and then it comes across the Atlantic. And it hits Northern Ireland and Northern Scotland. And what that does is it keeps our winters mild compared to other places, and it keeps our summers cooler because of the current temperature. Right, we've got the warm water for the Gulf Stream that's coming across. It's like a conveyor belt. You also look at latitude. So London's latitude is the same as Calgary in Canada. Now, I don't know Canada, but I remember they had the Winter Olympics in Calgary. If you look at the zone for Calgary, it's zone 3B/4. So that's quite cold. Yeah, this is London, the same height up the globe. Edinburgh and Glasgow, which is only, 300, 400 miles max from London, they're actually higher up than Moscow. Yes, Glasgow and Edinburgh get snow and they get cold weather, but because what's called the prevailing winds, so the vast majority of the wind that we get in the British Isles comes off the Atlantic, that wind is a few degrees warmer because of the Gulf Stream. So generally speaking, we don't get the really bad freezes. Also then you have what's called the jet stream. Now the jet stream is very fast winds, 30, 40,000 feet up in the air, that come across the Atlantic. Normally it's around across the UK. Sometimes it will kink below the UK or it will kink above the UK. If it kinks below the UK in the winter, goes under, more across the Channel or Europe, we then get these cold air coming down from the Arctic. And when that happens, then we get the snow, we get the really cold frosts of -8, -10. Scotland, it goes as low as -20. So that's when it kinks. If it kinks north of the UK in the summer, we get the warm air coming up from even as far south as the Sahara Desert. So when we get the warm air from Africa coming up, that's when we get our rare heat waves, where we get 30 odd degrees, and I think it was 39 degrees a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was very hot.
Yeah, so even though climate is climate, those kind of things are weather events that are caused not by climate, where your average temperatures, your average prevailing winds, weather can be affected. Prevailing winds means the majority of the winds that we get in this country, the UK, comes from the west, which brings the warmer current from the Gulf Stream, the warmer air. However, we do get northern winds and we get easterly winds. If the easterly winds happen in the winter or spring, remember the beast from the east, where we got about a foot of snow, -10,
Yeah.
and that was in March.
Yes,
Because
it
it came all the way from Siberia over, but it's a rare event you get that kind of easterly wind. And it's the same when it comes down from the north. You'll get the really cold weather. I think we had one about a month ago where it was -3, -4 every night. That's because the wind was coming down from the north. But the vast majority of the wind comes off the Atlantic, the prevailing wind. Right, so like I said, time for frost is it's not going to do massive damage. But as an example, when you go down to Torquay, they have palm trees growing on the beach. The reason they can do that, they rarely get a frost because they are closer to the Gulf Stream and they're just a touch further south. But weather is affected by climate and climate affects weather. It's all intertwined. And as I said about the jet stream, it's always quicker to come home from the States when you've been on holiday than going on holiday. And what the planes do is they jump up into the jet stream and they catch a ride all the way back to the UK. And that's why normally it's about an hour shorter to come home from New York than to travel over to New York. We're all worried about when do we do our last frost, when do we start our tender perennials, our dahlias. What you need to understand with the dahlias, they are from Mexico, yes, but Mexico is an extremely mountainous country. So if you take Mexico City, I think it's over 7,000 feet above sea level. Then you go down to the coast, Cancun or Acapulco, that's at sea level. I actually went on holiday in Mexico City for about a month, a few years ago, over Christmas and New Year. And we were wearing a jumper and the Mexicans were wearing jackets because you're 7,000 feet up in the winter. We then went to Acapulco for a few days and it was beach weather. You're in the sea, sun tanning, that kind of thing. So dahlias come from the mountainous regions of Mexico where their ideal temperature is 19 to 23, 24 degrees. They don't experience heat waves. So a heat wave that we get in the UK, you know, all the flowers go yellow and bleached.
Yeah, and the leaves wilt.
Yeah, and they wilt in the hot sun. And the other side is they don't experience frost where they come from. So that's why the slightest frost can cause leaf damage, you know, when they all go black. By the end, you get frost at night, by the end of that first day, the leaves have gone black. If you start them too early, we will get an air frost. It is guaranteed we're going to get an air frost between now and the middle of May. And it can set them back.
Yeah, because if you get caught out and they get damaged, you'll end up setting them back further than they would have been if you just waited.
Just wait. There's no hurry. And don't waste your energy.
Or the plant's energy.
Yeah, and all the plant's energy. Okay, last frost. Everyone's going on about last frost date. You can Google it. You'll probably get about 20 different dates for the same area. But on average, our last frost is mid-May. And when they mean last frost, there's three types of frost. There's a deep frost, there's a ground frost, and there's an air frost. Deep frost will only occur in the winter months when the sun is low, it's not warming it up, and it can last all day when your ground's frozen. A ground frost is where the top soil will get frozen. We are now past those and we're into air frost. An air frost is just where you see white on the tips of the grass or some plants or the leaves. Our last frost is technically now, end of March, but that's only kind of on average. And we've been doing this business now for 10 years. And every year we get an air frost, end of April, early May.
Oh, often the 17th of May.
Yes.
Yeah, always.
And then what happens is that air frost will freeze the ends of the dahlias, your leaves. It won't kill them, but it will put them back. So when you start them earlier, you're trying to plant them out bigger, there's more chance that they can get damaged and they end up flowering later.
Than they would have done if you just waited.
Just leave them and wait. And we will get an air frost. I can guarantee we will get an air frost any time up to the 17th, 18th of May.
A question for you. So you were just talking about Torquay.
Yep.
Does the air cool as it goes over land?
It will a little bit. That's why I think one of the coldest parts of England is Oxfordshire, because it's the furthest from any water.
Right.
So even the North Sea, which doesn't really get the Gulf Stream, the North Sea never freezes. So therefore, when it's -5 on land, the North Sea is still 5-6 degrees. It is heating that air. You rarely see snow on the beach because the sea is keeping it, is melting it.
Yeah.
When I lived up in North Scotland when I was younger, it used to snow right up to the waterline on the beaches. But that's North Scotland, which is very cold.